the wind and everything.
All aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Yes, it's time for this month's broadcast of Chicago Junction, the program that takes you to the wonderful world of trains. I'm your announcer, Brian Ballou, and here's our head of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Chief Electrical Engineer, Mr. John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, March the 9th, the year 2022. Today, the panel will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And now, to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Mr. Brian.
Yay!
Thank you, John. And now, let's meet the panel. On my left, we have the wonderful Doug Kenyuk.
Doug.
I did.
Okay.
Diggy
Yeah,
Doug.
this is Doug Kenyuk. I'm officer with the Railroad and Short Lines Club of Chicago, adjunct professor at River Ride College, N-scaler, longtime rail fan, and just like trains, period.
Dave DeRuska, retired locomotive engineer, vice president of the Black Hawk chapter of the National Railway Historical Society, and the chief cheerleader for the Chicago Railroad History Month.
Good evening. My name's Kevin Berry, retired Chicago police sergeant, director with the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, lifetime Lionel collector and operator, and when Brian's in a good mood, he only calls me a rivet counter.
Brian's always in a good mood. I'm Ron Messner, and I'm a member of the Garden Railroad Society in Chicago, and I love trains.
But do they love you back?
Oh, yes, they do.
And I am Brian Ballou. I am your announcer. I am a member. I am a train enthusiast.
Do you need help with how many members you belong to?
We don't go into that, but
Okay.
I have to get my information from somewhere. So I belong to several museums. I belong to some model rail associations like LOTS and LCCA, plus clubs, the model railroading variety, whether it be large scale or Rose gauge. But I like finding out the information. I like working on the equipment. I prefer steam, but diesel's okay too. And we come up with all sorts of information.
You'll tolerate a diesel when steam isn't available.
That is true. That is true. Just like the new display at the Volo Museum. They bought a locomotive and a few cars from Ford Museum. They were getting ready. They're going through their collection. We're going to scrap it. So they bought it and had it sent to the Volo Museum. It's on display out there.
So everything at Volo is supposedly for sale to the public. Is that true with the train?
Well, we were thinking about that, and we were like, well, geez, figured the guy from Elgin, he got rid of the Leviathan.
Yeah.
He sold that. That's on display running in Pennsylvania. And so we could probably try it. I went up there. They had one interesting truck that they had a small boiler in. And yeah, it runs by steam.
I guess steam was kind of a thing before gasoline motor came out.
Oh, yeah. You have these Stanley steamers.
Now they
the
clean
carpet guys.
Yeah, now they clean your carpet. They've graduated.
Yeah.
You know,
They're cleaning up.
I have seen videos of equipment that belongs to the British Army from around World War One, where they were actually using steam-driven, for want of a better word, tractors
yeah.
as heavy haulers, but on the roadways.
Well, if you go to Heston Steam Museum, you'd be very impressed with some of the equipment they got on their weekend and holiday weekends. They light off the steam tractors. That's what actually started the museum out there.
I don't remember exactly where it is on I-55 coming north from St. Louis to Chicago, but it looks like a fairground to me, but there's a couple of steam-driven tractors parked just inside the gate. You can see them. You know, I mentioned it before. It's along that section of rail with the concrete ties instead of wooden ties.
Yeah, they're one stretch, so you can do 110.
High-speed rail.
When?
So,
Are you ready?
yeah, who wants to start?
Why not Tutu? Because I even got news
Ooh.
that's up to date.
Ooh.
Just an interesting question for you guys. The Teamsters in Canada are voting to strike against CP. And they're going to take the final vote on March 16th. This is the engineers, conductors, and trainmen. And they say their usual stuff, wage, benefits, pensions. My question is, if they walk out on strike, because that's Canada, not U.S., what happens to CP U.S.?
There are talks.
Well, the people who
No,
work
no,
in the U.S.
no.
are under separate contract.
Yeah, they're under a separate contract. However, they're starting to really. They're tired. That's what it is with BNSF.
Right. They're trying to
UP.
this crazy ass.
This crazy thing that they started to make money. The
Yeah.
precision railroading.
Beyond that, it's now they're putting everybody on some sort of microscope as to how you rest, when you
Right.
rest.
I read that article. That's the hell are they thinking?
Yeah, well, they're thinking that they can make more money out of killing people.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But there's been a lot of backlash. I know the BLET went to Washington with some of the other operating unions, and
They're even talking. They're talking to Congress.
yeah, they're talking to Congress because the railroads say, hey, you know what? We don't care what anybody says. We're going to do it. We're just going to go ahead and do it.
Here it is. That was one of the. I had modern news.
Oh, I saw it on some labor socialist website.
Oh, labor socialist.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. It was just came up on the feed.
RWU, Railway Workers Union.
Well, the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Transportation Trades Department of the American Federal Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations, AFL, CIO, TTD,
EIL.
MOUSE.
and the,
SWAK.
and the Smart Transportation Division, SMART-TD, are calling for members to participate in a petition drive to raise awareness of railway workers' attendance policies. The policy seeks to raise awareness of the attendance requirements like the BNSF Railways' controversial high-vis policy, which the unions allege forces rail workers to live in constant fatigue. The unions have asked the U.S. Departments of Transportation and Labor to investigate rail carrier attendance policies. Congress must act to end these unsafe and life-sapping policies that punish workers with job loss, says Smart TD President Jeremy Ferguson and BLET President Dennis Pierce in a joint press release.
Remember, I learned something when I started with the railroad. It's you're hired to be fired.
But the thing is, that's what it's doing now, literally, because everybody's complained about train crew shortages, but look at the number of the people that they've laid off.
Right.
There's guys out there being hired at other jobs saying it used to be to work for the railroad was great. They stood by you and everything. He says, "I'm glad I'm gone." He says they don't do that anymore.
No.
No, the bean counters got in there.
Well, the bean counters, unfortunately, don't know what's good. They know their own little world. And,
Mike Reichel once did an article on traditional Greek-run restaurant and the restaurants run today. And he said the difference was you had a guy sitting in the back booth looking at a spreadsheet while people were complaining about how bad the food is. But the guy in the Greek restaurant would stand there, the owner would say, "You didn't make it right," and threaten to kill the guy with a knife.
yeah.
Anyway, ready? Some more?
Before you jump into that, with the work rules and everything, last week, it was either the 3rd or 4th of March, little tiny two-liner on the AOL News that the engineer on the Bostonian, the wreck out of
Oh, yeah.
New York.
Got the charges dismissed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got that.
Okay.
I've got that news.
Okay, I haven't heard that one.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, here's another one. NYC subway cars begin their final journey to Ohio. Now, my question is, why? It says, the article says the Metropolitan Transit Authority announced that 4 of New York City Transit recently retired R37 subway cars
Okay.
will soon be shipped to Ohio. The cars will be carried from South Brooklyn Marine Terminal to 65th Street, Vale to New York, New Jersey Rail. Locomotive earlier this week. MTA officials said in a press release after being dismissed. Disassembled at the rail yard, they will be secured to Frontier Industrial Corp flat cars for transport across the Hudson River to Jersey City, where they will travel via CSX to Ohio. No other information why they're going to Ohio.
They actually covered that Saturday morning on the CBS Saturday Morning News. The last 4 cars, and I think they identified them as R32s, not R37s. They said they were the type of car that had been seen in King Kong, The Warriors, and The French Connection. They were fluted stainless steel sided cars.
Yeah, they're known as Brightliners.
Yeah, they were the last 4 that were in service, and they showed them being shunted by 2 MP-15s from NYNJ, and they said they were going to Ohio to be scrapped. But they did also say that 2 were saved, and they will be in the New York City Transit Museum.
Well, yeah, they've been saved. They've got them. They've already had the cars carted to be
So,
saved.
like, there's no junkyards in New York or New Jersey or Connecticut or Rhode
you know,
Island.
Well, you know how that works is that the lowest bidder gets to scrap them.
Makes sense.
So, and it's up to the scrapper to pay for transportation costs of their location.
Well,
Okay.
somebody's gonna get paid trackage. So it's like Dave said, the scrapper probably said, we'll give you X per car, and we'll pay all the related costs.
Okay, that almost makes sense.
But I'm curious, were they ever in a Godzilla movie used as toothpicks?
Maybe.
No, they just did the King Kong.
I know which one
The
you're thinking of.
1977.
The 1989 version with New York City with the French guys and
Yeah,
stuff.
right.
Yeah, I know which one you mean, yeah. I don't know. Have to take a
Oh,
look.
the Inspector Clouseau Godzilla?
Yeah. Anyway, Omnitrax.
Matthew Broderick.
Ohio Short Line acquires electric locomotives. Omnitrack affiliate Newburgh and South Shore has purchased its first all-battery electric locomotive to operate in northern Ohio. As a side note, as they've been discovering, electric vehicles don't work well in cold weather. Don't you? I don't know if you guys knew that or not.
Yeah, right.
And then I was watching a video about a guy saying, you know, when your gasoline car doesn't start, you put 2 jumper cables on it and get it started. But if you put 2 jumper cables on an electric car, the car will start, and when you take the cables off, it stops. Anyway, so he said the new AMPS traction GP9 based battery electric switching locomotives is a 250,000 pound unit with 1,700 pound gross horsepower and 80,000 pound dispatch. Don't know what that means, don't care. NSR, the railroad, is the first Ohio short line to deploy this. The railroad was selected as a guarantee by the Ohio Environment Protection Agency Diesel Mitigation Trust Fund, which awards funding to support demonstrated improvement in air quality. The NSR was one of 7 receiving that award. So basically the railroad got the locomotive for free.
Did they get replacement batteries for it?
I don't know. They have to ask Duracell and see.
There's a whole bunch of them laying at the bottom of the ocean.
Wisconsin DOT awards funding to fix a bunch of railroad bridges. The bridges involved are the Janeville bridges and the track around it. So WSOR is the big beneficiary of all this. They're getting $2.5 million to
Rehabilitate.
Yes, thanks.
How about renovate?
5 bridges and 1 mile of track in Janesville. The Reedsburg subdivision is getting money to fix 22 miles of track. The Prairie subdivision is getting a bridge replacement. And again on the Reedsburg subdivision, some more bridge fixing. Total amount is somewhere in the area of $24 million. Oh, you got it. Okay.
Okay, well, that's another story I don't have to.
This one, I told you I got some funny bridge stories, so here's the next 2. All-time North Dakota, at this time, North Dakota may be the owner of a rail bridge at the center of a tug-of-war. According to the Friends of the Rail Bridge, a group that's trying to keep the BNSF from demolishing a 139-year-old rail span across the Missouri River, the state is actually the owner of the bridge, not the Class 1 railroad. The claim is backed up by the equal footing and public trust doctrines, which guarantees that all states that enter into the Union on the same footing as the original 13. Under the public trust doctrine, the state owns and protects certain natural resources for public use. Friends of the Rail Bridge believe Congress held in trust navigable rivers like Missouri and any structures in the riverbed, even after the Northern Pacific Railroad was given permission to build the railroad into the Dakota Territory. Friends is claiming that North Dakota assumed ownership of the navigable rivers from Congress when it became a state in 1889. Since Congress did not transfer ownership of the bridge to Northern Pacific before the state became official, the state is the owner of the rail bridge. BNSF is looking into this latest claim. I knew you'd like that part.
Send lawyers, guns, and money.
A request has been made from the Attorney General's statement on ownership. Meanwhile, the Coast Guard and BNSF is expected to meet in the coming weeks.
The only person or persons who will profit from this are lawyers.
Told you I got funny bridge stories. Here's one. Cost to repaint bridge in Casper, Wyoming. Officials looking for alternatives. Officials in Casper, Wyoming want to know why it costs so much to repaint a rail bridge. The bridge is part of an enhancement project on the I-25 corridor. Wyoming DOT plans to reconstruct the highway from Poplar Street to East Yellowstone Highway in the near future. Casper has set aside a little over $462,000 to enhance the center street between B Street and I-25 and additional federal dollars to be used. city officials are trying to figure out how to stretch the budget on some of the enhancements, and work involving the rail bridge could be a sticking point. Casper Vice Mayor Steve Friel said the cost to repaint the structure seemed high. City Manager Cartier Napier agreed and added that the rail bridge project needed to be among those included in the enhancement effort. Napier said that the city could pull the repainting project out of the Center Street work and budget it separately. City also approached BNSF, owner of the bridge, for funding assistance. Now, I don't see what the problem here is. You go to Home Depot, buy about 30 or 40 cans of spray paint, and the taggers will have it done overnight. I mean,
And probably be very attractive, too.
yeah. All right, here's one. Santa Cruz RTC, Regional Transit Commission, becomes a goat herder for the sake of railroad tracks. The Santa Cruz County Regional Transportation Commission is currently overseeing a pilot project that's using about 200 goats on the railroad tracks to eat invasive track species and overgrown bush, as well as other debris.
Hey, those McDonald's wrappers.
Yeah. The herd has been moving up and down the railroad tracks, chewing up anything that is edible, and the hope is that feeding will help reduce wildfires, keep invasive plant species under control, and clear drainage ditches, and clean the line to prevent damage to train wheels.
Calm down, calm down.
And if a goat gets in the way, they don't have to grease the axle.
Yeah, the goats are currently serving their final location in Live Oak near 17th and 18th Avenues, where a mile of track is expected to be treated this weekend. The Regional Transit Commission could put together a long-term vegetation management program with goats serving as the equipment, but the move could be determined on how the vegetation grows back in the spring. Now, just so you know, and Ron has seen this, a neighbor of ours has a pair of goats, a pair of sheep, and I had them come over last summer twice, and I didn't have to cut grass. They did it, right? You saw them.
They got the goats out at O'Hare.
Yeah.
I know.
So
But still.
you like that one, don't you? Hey, anything edible, that works for me. Now, I was thinking about that LA thing with all those packages. Imagine that. They would have been good for beef them up and stuff.
Seventh Heaven.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, especially the couple that they found with stuff in it that they weren't expecting to find. Oh, they found what I think would have made a nice pallet full of marijuana.
Cool.
What?
It was packaged. It was being sent as care packages.
They weren't shipping it to stores in Illinois, were they?
They were shipping it to military installations.
Well, here's one that you guys will like. IDOT, Illinois Department of Transportation, and Iowa Interstate need to come together once and for all to get the rail line construction moving. Our two wonderful senators, Duckworth and Durbin, along with Sherry Studos, sent letters to IDOT and the Iowa Interstate Railroad calling on them to get together and finalize an agreement on the scope and costs to upgrade the line for passenger line use. So they're still screwing around with that, basically.
Is this the Peoria?
This is the one out the Quad Cities.
Oh, Quad Cities, okay.
Meanwhile,
In Rockford.
yeah. Meanwhile, last month we talked about this parallel systems, the self-contained freight cars that would run.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Our wonderful federal government, Department of Energy, just gave the company $4.5 million to put up a prototype. So much for this being a pie in the sky. Here's the details so you guys could see what they're doing. And they got some fantastic claims, but basically they're going to get $4.5 million. It's a 29-month project to see how it's going to work, basically.
Are these the same people that made that bus in China that straddled the highway?
No, these are guys, yeah. These are former Tesla engineers.
Oh, God.
So,
God help
yeah.
us.
And they said university companies and our national labs are doubling down on advancing clean energy technology, innovation, and manufacturing in America to deliver critical energy solutions from renewables to fusion energy to tackle the climate crisis. That's why they got the award. So they gave them an award to run electric trains.
It looks like they stuck a motor in the bogey or
Yeah,
the
in the
float
trucks. Yeah.
In the truck.
that they use with the Rail King.
Yeah.
You know, when they hook the semis together. But, you know, I don't see where the power source is.
Batteries.
So, yeah,
No.
I'm not going to read the whole article. I mean, they're just talking back and forth
got-
about it.
They got a big transformer all set up. They'll plug it into the rails and they'll run electric trains.
We'll spray Lionel on the side, no problem.
Yeah. I mean, it looked good in that movie with the, what was it, the Gila Monster.
Oh, did you know they remade that movie? There's a remake out there. It was a couple of years ago. I was looking through IMDb for something and it came up, and when did they remake this?
Oh my God, I gotta look at that. I love it.
I guess got two more here. This one's a long one, so I'm just going to paraphrase it. Builder of high-speed maglev train wins appeal in battle over use of waterfront land in Westport, Maryland. Did you know they're building a maglev between, Baltimore and Washington? Did anybody know they were doing this? This is the first I heard of it.
Are federal funds involved?
Yes, there is. It's a $10 billion project to link
Boy,
Washington
you're
and
smart.
Baltimore and eventually to New York with a superconducting maglev train. The legal tug of war is over the waterfront at Baltimore's Westport neighborhood. And they need that as a junction point, apparently. And they're fighting over, even though they got two different routes that they're going to put up, this happens to be a critical point. And that's what this whole article is about, them fighting over the land. Because they want to use eminent domain to get it. They want to be charged for it. The residents don't want to move. You know, the usual story. So that's and finally one article that I couldn't get much information on because it was one of those paywalls. It said Chinese coaches arrive in Montreal. Apparently Montreal, the regional transit agency, bought 44 double-deck coaches from China. It's in Siemens out of up in Canada, or Bombardier or whatever that is.
Bombardier, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and they build it.
Lowest bidder.
Yep.
Well, they don't have a good warranty, let me tell you.
So that's what I got. Okay, Dave, you're up.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about wasting money closer to home.
Oh, no.
Illinois bills would allocate funding for a new passenger rail network. Illinois Representative Martin Moylan of Des Plaines and Senator Steve Staldeman, Democrat Rockford, have introduced bills in the General Assembly that call for the appropriation of $18 million towards the development of an integrated passenger rail network across the state. Calls for funding comes on the heels of the state's creation last year of the Illinois High-Speed Railway Commission. The High-Speed Railway Alliance reported this week. HB 5695 and companion bill SB 4174 would allocate $3 million to the Illinois Department of Transportation's Rail Division to hire additional employees, $5 million to IHSRC for support and planning, and $10 million to IDOT for engineering support. The funding would help the state advance plans for a statewide network, which would help the state take advantage of the unprecedented level of funding in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that President Joe Biden signed in November of 2021. So, when do you think that's going to happen?
Not in my lifetime.
They're still trying to get a train to Rockford, for crying out loud. What's this guy from Rockford trying to get a statewide network going? Amtrak engineer Bastian acquitted of charges from fatal derailment. Amtrak engineer Brandon Bastian was found not guilty of all charges stemming from the fatal May 12, 2015 derailment of Northeast Regional Train 188. The jury returned its verdict after a little more than an hour of deliberations. The 38-year-old was tried on charges of causing catastrophe, 8 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 1 for each of the passengers killed in the accident, and more than 200 counts of reckless endangerment. The trial came after a convoluted legal path that saw the charges against Bastian dropped and reinstated twice. Bastian's lawyers said the verdict gave Bastian his future back. I don't think he'll have a future as a locomotive engineer, though.
Metra.
And no, Metro won't hire him either, I'm sorry to say. Brandon made a mistake because of a distraction. That's not a crime, his lawyer said. I explained to the jury that good people make honest mistakes every day, and it's not criminal conduct. Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro, whose office prosecuted the case, said in a Friday statement that his office respects the jury's verdict, finding that Bastian's actions were not criminal. There's no question that the excessive speed of the train that the defendant operated resulted in the death and injury to his passengers. Our goal throughout this long legal process was to seek justice for each and every victim and help bring victims' family and loved ones closure. So that's the end of that. Amtrak extends cuts to 7 long-distance routes in May. Now, the government gave Amtrak to keep these lines, these long-distance routes open, but Amtrak has decided that it wants to keep it cut anyways. Have advised passengers to rebook their trips as the passenger carrier extends its frequency reduction on 7 routes. It was extending service reductions to the Silver Meteor, Empire Builder, California Zephyr, Southwest Chief, Lakeshore Limited, City of New Orleans, and Crescents beyond the date. Thursday's announcement, unlike the one in January, offered no tentative dates to restore daily service. We continue to work on frequency additions for the coming months as staffing and other resources allow. And one of my friends who works for Amtrak says they should fire the entire board of Amtrak. He said they're totally worthless.
Of course they are. That's why they're there.
BNSF, they seem to have a lot of money because they're going to pay around $2 billion to buy out Montana Rail Link lease. Analysts and industry observers suspected that BNSF Railway had to pay a pretty penny to buy out Montana Rail Link's long-term lease on the former Northern Pacific Main Line. It turns out they were right. BNSF's financial report suggests that the railroad paid MRL around $2 billion to tear up the lease well before it was scheduled to expire in 2047. That's right in line with independent analyst Anthony B. Hatch's $2 billion estimate. Other analysts and observers who spoke with Trains Newswire arrived with the same figure, citing the valuations of rail acquisitions. Now, Montana Rail Link began operations on October 31st, 1987, under a 60-year lease from Burlington Northern. BN had excess capacity across Montana, favored the former parallel Great Northern Main Line, and was saddled with antiquated labor contracts and poisonous union management relationships.
Oh, no.
Surprise, surprise. So BN unloaded the 590-mile former Northern Pacific Main between Jones Junction, Montana, and Sandpoint, Idaho. BNSF has sought to undo the lease over the years. So I guess they finally paid the pretty penny and got their way. Plan announced for $80 million development, including a new South Shore station in Michigan City. Now, street running has ended in Michigan City. They're building a bypass to go around, or they're doing something with the streets where there will no longer be streets. The tracks are going to be on a private right-of-way. And
yeah, they bought most of the properties on the west side of the street.
Yeah.
Most of the buildings are gone already.
Right, they're going to double track. The Michigan City, the Northern Indiana Commuter Transportation District, and a developer have reached an agreement on an $80 million mixed-use facility that will include a rebuilt South Shore station at the site of the recently torn down 11th Street station. Now, I guess they kept the facade.
They did.
So they're going to include the facade of the old station in the new building. It will be built by Indianapolis-based Flaherty and Collins, will cover a city block, and will include a 12-story high-rise with 208 luxury apartments, more than 10,000 feet of commercial space, and a 558-space parking garage, as well as the station. Renderings of the project show that the terracotta facade of the original 11th Street station, torn down earlier this year, will be incorporated in the station building. That had been promised in previous renderings of a much smaller development on that site. A groundbreaking is planned for the summer of 2023, with the station open by May 2024 and the apartments complete by 2025. Here's an interesting talk about battery-powered stuff. Pop-Up Metro aims to provide affordable passenger operation. Rail entrepreneur Henry Posner wants to make passenger service more affordable and more available. He calls it Pop-Up Metro, and to do it he's betting on batteries, remanufactured British multiple-unit cars, and a bold business model to reduce the risk to potential rail operators. If it were anyone but Posner, the rail project would be seen as a crackpot idea with little chance of success. But Posner is the co-founder of Railroad Development Corporation, which owns Iowa Interstate Railroad, along with operations in England, France, Germany, Belgium, and Peru. Gee, it sounds like our old boss.
The cars are from England.
Yeah.
And they have a test railroad that they're running on. It happens to be the Rock Hill Furnace Trolley Museum.
Mm.
And Posner is rebuilding the track, the 2.5-mile circle, so it can run 40 miles an hour. No, Rail Pace had this story. I reported it, I guess, 3 months ago.
Okay.
One of the programs.
Yep.
And
Well, they'll be operating as the German subsidiary RDC Deutschland. This year won a contract to operate 5 routes in North Germany that will use the new Stadler battery electric train sets. Posner spent 3 years developing the concept for Pop-Up Metro, an affiliate of RDC. We felt that it was the right time. One, because of the evolution of battery technology, and two, we felt there would be increased focus on the environment. 60-foot rail cars each weigh 36 tons, will run on converted lithium iron magnesium phosphate batteries. These batteries have a longer lifestyle and are considered safer than lithium ion batteries. Now the train, for now, the train is restricted to 15 miles per hour on the Rock Hill line. Posner says will be upgraded to 40. So on and so on. So, and they're actually attractive cars.
yeah, they are.
And last but not least, Pullman is going to be having Save the Date, May 14th, 15th, a weekend-long celebration of railway history in Pullman with something for everyone, featuring a grand opening of Railroaders, an exhibit of Jack Delano's WW2 photography of people who work for the railways in the yard station and on the train. Tours of 3 historic Pullman train cars, brought in especially for the event, which I guess are going to be up on the Metro tracks like they were the last time. The advent of new railway innovation, focus-guided tours of the Pullman factory site, the launch of our monthly lecture series, food, music, and much more. So save the date. It's a Saturday, Sunday, May 14th and 15th.
You're up, Brian.
Well, we got
Then you.
need something to drink. Oh, this update for the C&W 1385. That 460 that used to run and it's taken so long to rebuild. Yeah, taken out of service in '98, and they're still doing fundraising so they can finish.
That's the engine that used to pull the circus train?
Yes.
Yes. And other little projects. Things the pandemic didn't help cut down on the work, and the flood.
Yeah.
That really helped it.
They built in a really great place, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Flood prone.
But it's actually getting right now they're installing the finally getting the ash pans thrown in, and that was one of the big tasks that they had to do.
I just read they were doing a hydro test on it, were they?
Well, they're finally getting it to that point.
Yeah.
As I said, once they got the ash pan in, they putting in the mud ring and such like that, and finally finishing the stuff on the boiler. They got the expansion joints in, and
Yeah, they had to wait for those joints because of that marijuana shipment that was lost in California.
yeah. Steam in Maryland, the Western Maryland Scenic had with the first runs of the 1309, they sold 25,722 tickets for their Polar Express weekends. That's the most they've had in a long time.
Now, is this an official authorized Polar Express?
Well, for them to use the name, yes,
Yeah.
it has to be.
Yeah, they had a bow to Hollywood and upschlagen mit the Geld. Come up with the money.
Oy vey.
Yeah. In 1919, the Polar Express only sold 9,000 tickets. We were still, weird. Future operation. Oh, like if you had got the new Trains magazine, March issue, if you open the page, they had a nice two back, from the cover to the next page, they had
Fold
two
out.
pages. Yeah, nice 2-page spread about running the fall excursions out of Reading, Pennsylvania to Jim Thorpe for the fall season. Pulled by Reading T1 2102. They got it running. Sister to number 2101. And they pulled her out, rebuilt her in the last 2 years. And they're running on the Blue Mountain in Reading. And to do full tests, they're going to be running freight with it. And that's okay. They're still moving anthracite. So, but 2716 is got a place to run once they finally rebuild it, and they're going to be running it starting in Waterbury to Torrington, Connecticut, over a 19-mile route there. They're going to run it up there. They've signed an agreement and everything. Howard Pincus, in charge, chairman of the Railway Museum in New England, who was also in charge of the passenger cars. I remember meeting him on the Safety Express. He was in charge of putting the cars together for that.
Which organization will be doing it? The Railway Museum of New England?
Yep.
Good, because I've been trying to get a number board pin for that engine. I got a chance to ride it with my kids back in the early 90s, and I didn't get a pin, and the Kentucky Steam Museum, where it was, never bothered to have the pins made.
Okay. Well, now it will.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully is right. What they say and what they do are two different things.
Yeah. This was interesting. It was announced recently that the railroading heritage of Midwest America will expand operations into the former National Railway Equipment Shop complex in Silvis, Illinois. The 90-acre facility, once the main shop of the Chicago, Rock Island, and Pacific, The historic facility has over 10 miles of track on the property itself. The main shop is 400,000 square feet with multiple overhead cranes. The complex includes a wheel shop, warehouse space, a locomotive drop table, several smaller shop buildings. The complex is served by the Iowa Interstate, BNSF, and Canadian Pacific Railway. Railway Heritage Midwest subsidiary Friends of the 261, which is based out of Minneapolis, owns and operates the Milwaukee Road 484-261. This organization takes it to a whole new level. We're excited about the possibilities. I think this is one of the boldest moves for historic and railway preservation in recent history. Under the agreement, a portion of the shop will be leased back to National Railroad Equipment over the next 5 years, which will help generate revenue to offset the cost of the acquisition. Sandberg says the organization hopes to use portions of the facility for restoration and repair work, diesel repairs, passenger car work, and historic preservation. In future year, Friends hope to run steam and diesel powered holiday-themed trains at the complex. At this time, there's no plans to move the Milwaukee steam locomotive there from its home base in Minneapolis, though it could be moved to Illinois to pull excursion trains on a temporary basis if needed. The locomotive, built in 1944 by the Alco, has pulled excursion trains around the United States, including the Quad Cities, since it's been restored to operating condition in 1993. We hope someday to construct the Railway Museum as part of the complex. In addition, the Friends own a large fleet of historic passenger trains, F9 streamlined diesel locomotive, and some equipment that could be displayed at the museum not in use.
Now, is that Milwaukee unit have PTC?
Yeah, they've come up with a plan to install PTC.
Okay.
They're taking the drawings from the UP because they put PTC in the big boy.
Oh, right.
And that's what a lot of the excursion guys are going for. If you go to the news, they're advertising now for the Autumn Express through the gorge in West Virginia, Huntington to Hinton and back through the New River Gorge. They are apparently they're gathering. It's going to be a train of all private cars, and they're selling tickets starting at $279 for a round trip, and depending upon which class of car that you get in. And if you haven't been through the New River Gorge during the autumn days, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful trip, worth it. I went through on the steam specials, and you can't beat it. Either way you get in the gorge is either by rail or rafting down the river or rubber tubing it.
Okay, Kevin, you're up.
All right. Menards has been on a power trip since our last broadcast, bringing out all kinds of really neat buildings. Yesterday, March 8th, the Metropolis Theater popped up. It's an Art Deco theater.
Too loud.
Old-fashioned marquee advertising for the Great Train Robbery, showing the show times. It's a $100 unit. It's fantastic. The week before, they came out with the Cripple Creek tractor repair. It displays part of an Anderson building supplemented with fieldstone and the big sliding metallic galvanized metal doors. It's 7 3/4 inches wide, 7 inches deep, and 5 inches high, and that was only $40. They also came out with a last chance notice to buy the bus maintenance facility. And they said, in keeping with our limited run policy to preserve the collectability and value, this item may never be repeated. They also advised that the unit may ship from a facility other than their big warehouse. It may have been a store display item. That's a really nice maintenance facility with 3 school buses and a lot of stuff. There's one of them behind the screen for the drive-in out at the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, and it's a great way to display fill a space that would be otherwise just dead space. And then they came up with the Halls of Handsome Barbershop. Okay? And the only character that's not there is Uncle Brian. There's the barber, there's a couple of people, there's a kid in one of those quarter rocket ships that bounces around that kids love. There's somebody sitting on the bench. Jack the Shepherd is there hiding someplace. It's an old-fashioned corner barbershop with the rounded out entryway, and that was $50. They're really coming out with a lot of stuff, and they're advertising all their rolling stock and their buildings. They also came out with a M&M Central flat car with an M&M coach on it. It looks like an old 1950s Trailway bus, and it's decked out, all marked up for M&M. They came out with a bunch of candy cars. They came out with a 1953 Ford pickup truck painted in a deep navy blue with yellow fenders and the Morton Salt Girl on the door. So this is obvious. It's a plug-and-play unit. And Kalmbach is advertising for a all about cabooses, and it's a set of 36 cards with color photos of 36 different types of cabooses seen on American railways.
Oh, so we got 36 varieties, different paint schemes on Fred?
Well,
no, this is pre-Fred.
Oh,
yeah, this is when somebody had to keep the coal-fired cannon stove going so that there was hot coffee for the crew.
This is where the conductor and the rear brakeman got to sleep.
You know, it got mixed in here with there it is. It's hiding on the bottom. Profiles of cabooses from Great Northern, Santa Fe, Lehigh Valley, Southern Pacific, and Mo. Key details such as railroad, road number, design, builders, and era. Fun facts covering notable insights and miscellaneous trivia.
oh, miscellaneous. Okay, who made the first caboose?
Where did the word caboose come from?
Mexico.
Did it?
Yeah, Spanish.
Senor Bobber.
Senor Bob.
Anyhow, You know, if
No, seriously, who
So-
built the first caboose?
Must have been Mexican.
Nope. C&W. Literally took an old boxcar
Yeah.
that had a hole in the roof. Oh, now you remember. Okay.
Now, did the guy bob up and down through the hole? You know, like the giraffes would on the Lionel cars?
That's where Lionel got their idea.
On the Dumbo cars.
Yeah, even Dumbo.
Yeah.
Well, you had to have the giraffe first.
Okay. Well,
and if you're lucky, you've got all three of the Bronx Zoo cars. That's all I got, boss.
Okay, Brian, you're back up.
Why?
I don't know.
because we like you.
Talk a little bit about Iowa Operation Lifesaver. Isn't Metro doing a blitz?
They're going to start blitzing now that we're, this way they won't know that, they will know we're not robbing them. We're not wearing our mask. But yeah, Operation Lifesaver is celebrating its 50th anniversary.
Wow.
And UP, which has been giving a hard time with some of the people here and about working it, every time new management comes in, and they're the ones that started it. It started in Idaho, way back when. A town in Idaho was having problems in the grade crossings. So it's one of the brakemen actually put together a thing for safety. Took it to his boss, and they said, yeah, if you can get people to listen, sure, try.
Sure, and if you're willing to do it in your off hours.
Yes, it is.
We're not paying you to do this now.
That's it. Right from the get-go. And but it worked. They've noticed that the incidences went down in the towns.
Better do one out at Harvey.
Oh, look, there's a train. I wonder what happens if we hit it.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's a real incident.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
People don't realize that it's not a video game. It's not Halo where you get killed and you regenerate 10 seconds later.
However, the difference between 2021 and 2020, because of the pandemic, I mean, we had low numbers in 2020. It was beautiful. And then all of a sudden we get the numbers for last year. And going, well, there's more people out there, and they did not watch what they were doing. We had more injuries, more deaths.
I know the Brightline in Florida is having a heck of a time with people walking in front of trains.
Yeah. Brightline is good. I mean, is expanding, and people just trespassing, shortcuts. That's where a lot of our problems is.
Did you see the footage of the last Brightline crash where the guy deliberately drove
Around
the gates and he got hit so hard pieces of his car flew off and the camera inside the cab of the train picked up the debris field flashing across the windshield of the train.
That's why I'm going to ask her if I can set up the display out at when we do the merit badge in June, and put this out there and have it set up, and this before see if anybody tries to steal it.
But DART, the Dallas area,
Yeah.
streetcar line, the first couple of years went through that. People would drive in front of it, stop on the tracks, jump in front of it, and so on. And it took them about 3 to 4 years before that all calmed down and
Well, you
got the
should.
people trained that
There
that's bigger
are
than you. Don't hit it.
there are a lot of storefronts in San Diego that got rebuilt at crossings where the roads cross, because the car thought, it's just a streetcar. Hit it, streetcar go through the front window of the restaurant, delicatessen, whatever store. We can outrun the train. The train's not going that fast.
They could stop on a dime. They usually need a quarter, but I mean,
Why don't they turn away from us?
that one I heard a lot.
I did too. What's funny is I've relieved several engineers on the South Chicago run
Oh, God.
at night,
Yep.
and I've finished up their runs. And because we had this, I'm trying to remember which street. Right at the end, you do the straight going down. And,
Talking about Baltimore?
And no, we're not in Baltimore.
No,
South
the
of
street,
Chicago.
Baltimore.
No.
You
talking if you get out of the
71st
tunnel? If you get out of the tunnel?
after you get out of the tunnel,
Yeah,
you
there's,
go down.
there's Stony Island and there's...
Yeah, you go down, but after you get to the end, you do this one curve, so
Yeah,
you
right.
go down.
Right.
And every time that I've relieved, the train was stopped there, and they just start up, and the assholes drive around the gates.
Oh, that'd be Yates, right by the country club.
I know the curve just before the tunnel used to be another one.
Yeah, that
you slow
another
down, and it's like you get... I had a car got trapped in there, right? And I pulled up and I stopped, and the poor woman was like petrified, just standing there petrified. And I said, "Ma'am, you can't." We got out and we said, "You can pull your car forward." She goes, "No, the train's going to hit me." I said, "No, you can pull forward. We're not going to hit you. We promise." Honest engine.
No, they.
Then Dave got back in the cab and goes,
But see,
Blew the horn.
I mean, it's. Well, when I was in my conductor training, they had me running on the at a proviso going up to Janesville, the auto train.
Mm.
And we were coming back, just making our early morning, 5 in the morning, 5:30, and you going along, and you got the mist out there.
Yeah.
And son of a gun, hurl, whack. Went over. We were going over a crossing. Whack. It says, "Yeah, looks like we got it." Okay, go take your walk. We stopped the train. I had to go back. The conductor wasn't going to go. You got your pad and pencil, right? Somebody in a Suzuki hit us. Right behind the cab, put a nice dent in the fuel tank. It bounced back about, I'd say 12 feet. It was moving a little bit. And ran right in the side of the locomotive. And it was a day later, because I had went through the Operation Lifesaver, and Bob Bengry was safety at that time. And got it, and we had a big display out the next day for the 25th anniversary of Operation Lifesaver.
Did it feature the Suzuki?
Well, when my engineer came up and showed the picture to the gal that was in charge, but yeah, had to call the ambulance. Cops. The people were hurt. Nobody died.
You didn't know Oscar Berg, did you?
No.
Engineer. Okay. That one year we had the really big snow, and we're coming down into Fox River Grove, going towards Crystal Lake, and I look. It's long down the hill,
Right.
and I see a car on the tracks, and I go, Oscar. I'm a fireman, right? Oscar's running. I go, Oscar, it's not moving. He goes, basically cussed it out. He gets going. Finally, he plugs it at the last minute, and here's this guy on the tracks waving at us, right? Jumps out of the way. We hit this car, and he was a carpenter, and all his tools were in the trunk, and there were saw blades flying like frisbees.
Oh my God.
No.
So I got left behind. He's a fireman. I'm here with this guy. He's going, why did you hit my car? And cops ended up giving him a ticket. He was under the influence. Anywho, is it time to go?
Just about. And just a quick mention, if you watch Virtual Rail Fan, he does a synopsis where he takes what happened over the day and condenses it down to like 15, 16 minutes. LaGrange, he's got a whole bunch of them where the train comes down, people pull in front of it, they hit the cars. There was one where some guy was trying to park his pickup truck and didn't quite make it, and he's only going 10 because that's all they're allowed to do through there. You can see him hit the brakes, hit the truck, knock the truck into a van, which knocked it into a storefront. Chain reaction. And it's like, well, I'm watching this, and I'm going, come here, Jan, watch this. And people run out in front of it sometimes. And the towns, if you go to LaGrange, Kentucky's website, Chamber of Commerce, come down to the town, sit in the restaurant, watch the trains go by.
Maybe you get lucky and see ping pong.
There was
Billiards.
But there was one video, the train was coming through, and for some reason it wasn't going 10, it was going like 5, or just creeping along. Something was, it was a long one, of course, it's CSX, 2 million cars. They showed some delivery driver. He had parked his truck, took the package, ran across the tracks, across the street to some building. Train's starting to come by. It's going slow enough. There was a flat car. So he hops onto the flat car, runs across the flat car, hops off and gets back in his delivery truck to keep going. And they got this on tape.
Oh my God.
This is on Virtual Rail Fan. You also catch stuff like the SpaceX launches, meteors coming down. So it's kind of interesting to watch.
People do stupid things.
Well, it's like that. This is back in 1975.
No, we're quitting.
Yeah, we're quitting, aren't we?
You ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hint.
There's been enough.
Well, he's closing up. Huh?
Well, don't argue with
Shut
the
me
boss.
down. Screw it.
So
As a train comes into this terminal, we want to thank you for joining us on our journey through the wonderful world of trains. Chicago Junction is a production of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and can be heard on the web at www.windycityhometown.com, where you can listen to tonight's broadcast and all of our past episodes if you really want some torture. And you can also sample some of the other fine programs that we offer. Till next month when we journey to Chicago Junction. This is your announcer Brian Ballou saying happy rails to you.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Wednesday, March the 9th, the year 2022. Chicago Junction was produced and directed by John DeVita, and a special thanks to our executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Wednesday, March the 9th, the year 2022. Now, friends, until next time, please Be safe, and thanks for listening.